Right, g'day everyone. As I said, my name is Paul Burke. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Northern Territory Farmers Association. This is episode 7 of our webinar series, Growing Our Territory. These have been really successful and they're a great way to get information out to the broader industry and to our growers. So as with the previous ones, there's a chat box down the bottom. So if you'd like to ask a question, please feel free to type it into the box down the bottom. Today I'm joined with by Carol Zunker, who's the Operations Manager for the Job Shop, and Aisla Connolly, Workforce Coordinator with Northern Territory Farmers Association. So just way of introduction, and thanks very much for joining us, guys. NT Farmers have worked really hard on our workforce for the coming season. We appreciate that it's been the hardest area for growers to get their head around of where staff are going to come from. Traditionally, a lot of our staff did come in through the seasonal worker program, and we are working with government at a very high level to try and make sure that that's a reality this year, although there are no guarantees. So it would be nice to think that we could create some sort of bubble with some of the Pacific Island countries and bring people in and quarantine them and then get them onto farm. But we can't just plan on that happening. So we need to have some other tools in the toolbox in case it doesn't become a reality. So we've worked with several of the refugee organisations here in the Northern Territory that have got people on different visas here under refugee visas, and trying to get them enabled so they can work on farms. We're working with government around quarantine restrictions and making sure that it's possible to quarantine on farm and to do so safely. We're working with Queensland and Western Australia to try and attract backpackers, so getting it out through their network that the NT is open for business and there are plenty of jobs available picking fruit for our mango season. We're working on attracting seasonal workers that are already within Australia, who might be picking in another region in a different fruit variety, so trying to attract them to the territory. We're working really hard with government on a centralised quarantine facility model. So that's progressing through the processes. And yesterday we met with a focus group of students in conjunction with Study NT. We've got currently around 3,500 students studying at various levels here in the Territory. We're trying to get some flexibility in their visas so they can work a full 40-hour week during the year, and that may be the silver bullet, so to speak, that will help us out for where we are going to be short. Because we do know that if we look at our numbers for last year and the year before, that we don't have that volume of people yet to be able to access our workers. So it's going to be critical that we've got a lot of different options. So Aisla, I might hand over to you. Aisla and Carol have certainly got a lot more expertise in this area, and they've been guiding me all the way through to what we need to be talking to government about. So over to you, Aisla, and please ask any questions through the chat box.
Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll go through the 10 items on the screen. We're here because of the COVID-19 restrictions. Normally, farmers access workers from international sources. 96% of harvest staff come from overseas. And due to those international borders currently being closed, we must plan where this year's harvest staff will come from. We have some suggestions and also subjects that employers must be aware of. So the first suggestion we have is to employ locals.
Slide forward.
The NT government have funded the Territory Jobs Hub. So this is a tool that you can use to connect with people that are seeking farm work. The registration is free and easy. If you need support, I'm happy to help you out. There is a guide online that you can also read through. And all of those people that we're talking to, they are registering as candidates, and you can search whether you want someone with a license or any kind of qualifications, experience, or even if they just want to work in our industry, that's how you can pick them up. So please use the Territory Jobs Hub. It's there as a connection, and it's basically an online talent pool. The NT government have also announced payroll tax exemptions up until the 30th of June next year. So again, that's something that employers will benefit from. There are incentives to employ trainees or apprentices. So some wages are covered, not 100%, but definitely a high percentage. So again, if you need extra staff and you're looking for even a part-timer, it doesn't have to be a full-time permanent role, it can be a part-time role. So again, access these incentives that the government have offered. There are plenty of qualified and experienced people in Darwin seeking work at the moment, and some of them are not aware of the opportunities in our industry. So we've been going out talking to different people such as new migrants, refugees, international students, to see if they can overcome any burdens to prevent them working on the farm, whether it's transport, accommodation, or just not knowing what's out there. We're promoting the industry and the harvesting seasons that we know of. Any questions?
Excuse me, Aisla, can I just also add in there that I have a contact that works for Saltbush, who are an Indigenous employment agency. They have access to the job providers throughout Darwin and Katherine, and they also can assist in having Indigenous employment in the farms. They help with transport, they help with a lot of the you know, hard to get things that other people are finding it's okay. They'll get them to work, they'll clothe them, they'll get their PPE, and they'll also mentor them. So that could also be an option for our growers.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Now, in relation to international students, as we've both touched on, Paul and I, we had a meeting with a group yesterday and we're working towards some solutions. So we will keep you posted on that. Any questions? No. All right. So currently, as an employer, you have to submit a COVID-19 management plan to mitigate the risk of coronavirus on your farm. So physical distancing and hygiene are some high priority areas that must be answered in the COVID-19 management plan. We have a template available on our website. We also have a guide available, and the Australian Mango Industry Association have a COVID-19 grower guide specific for mango growers on their website. And I'm happy to assist with your application, as with Sarah Hain from Australian Mangoes. Basically, once your COVID-19 management plan is filled out, you can submit it to the Department of Health. It can take up to 10 working days for those to be approved. So again, if you start now, you're going to be ready for getting your workers here. Okay, hand over to Carol.
As Isla said, we all need our COVID-19 management plans. The job shop has theirs in place, approved, and we have been using that already. So what you can do, if you're looking for workers, we are the Harvest Labour Service. We provide a free service to growers to get workers for you. We'll source them, we'll advertise for them, we will get them to, we'll give them your details for the farm, and then we can put forward either resumes if sometimes you're needed, or we get workers sorted straight out to the farm. We work in conjunction with the National Harvest Labour Information Service. So speaking with the National Harvest Service, we do quarterly meetings with them, but I have spoken to them recently, and we are looking at a campaign with them, as well as the Australian Mango Association, to get workers ready for the mango season. So from late September through to December, we will need hundreds of workers up here in the NT. So if you are wanting to get workers, you need to get through to us early so that we can prepare. We need all to be proactive. There's a lot of things we need to do to get workers up. So if you can be organised, then we can actually try and get the workers here ready for you.
Thanks, Carol. In relation to the opening date of interstate borders, there is speculation that borders may open mid-July with the minimum of 2 weeks' notice to the public, but there's no certainty on that. And if there is a second wave of coronavirus here in the Territory, again, we need to be prepared and have those contingency plans in place. Any questions? Okay, so currently in Australia, the working holiday makers that are here, they can now work for the one employer for more than 6 months. So that's a change that the Department of Home Affairs have made to their visa, because the international borders are closed and they cannot go home, and they're working to pay their rent, etc. So on the screen, we've got the link that you can get more information on that. Carol, you also had...
Yes, so backpackers may be granted a 408 visa for a further stay of up to 12 months if they're employed in the agricultural industry. There are other critical sectors that they could apply for being employed under, but as we are in the agricultural industry, that's the one that we're most interested in. So they can go online, apply for their visas, and they will be granted a bridging visa while they're waiting for their application to be processed.
Good to know. Any questions on that? No? Okay. So, Carol, you have some seasonal workers here?
We do. At the moment, we have 169 seasonal workers in Australia working throughout Australia. We have redeployed seasonal workers throughout different states and territories. We've had just recently 25 come into the Northern Territory, and where we have isolated them on farm, and in some instances in a separate farm so that they're not with other workers. This has worked out really well, and they've already started working. We've also redeployed some of our seasonal workers to other approved employers. In this way, we're looking at, we're giving them some of our workers now, and then when the mango season comes, we'll be able to get workers from them for our really busy season. With the seasonal workers, the same as the backpackers, we're allowed to apply for their extension of a visa as well. They can stay in Australia for a further 12 months. We put in for their 408 visa, and we do that 28 days prior to their visa expiring. There are police checks and health checks that our seasonal workers are required to undertake, but we generally get everything sorted for them. The other thing I wanted to talk about was accommodation. The department that we work under the seasonal worker program, have very strict rules in place as far as the new deed goes. If you are requiring workers from us for your mango harvest, we need to get things sorted and we need to get things underway within the next month. First thing we would need to do is to make sure that your accommodation meets the Department of Planning's compliance. There are links online, and I can send you information from the Department of Planning that will make sure you comply with those rules. The other thing we need is checklists of your accommodation. We need photos, we need all the information our department requires so that we can put in for approvals for accommodation when we do your recruitment plan. The last thing I wanted to talk about in this section was the work health and safety. So under the NT WorkSafe, they have excellent information on health and safety, information on training, on inductions, risk assessments. These things are critical when it comes to working safely on the farm. I can provide you with some details if you are not able to find that information yourself. We had a really good article sent through by one of our clients' consultancy firms this week. It was all about optimizing the performance of your seasonal workforce. It's giving some excellent tips on how to retain your staff, how to look after your staff, and how to ensure that you get the best productivity from your staff. I will be sending this little flyer out to my growers this week, so look out for that one. I'll hand that back to you now, Aisla.
Thanks, Carol. So as well as the 100 plus that you have, there's actually a few thousand seasonal workers currently working in Australia picking produce interstate. So we aim to access some of those workers to come here. Of course, we have to go through the approved employers. So as Carol explained, if you're not an approved employer, you can hire through somebody like the job shop as long as you're meeting all of the criteria. And another thing that Carol mentioned was the accommodation doesn't have to be on the farm, it can be external. So if that's a problem, we can get around that with external accommodation. Now we've got one question here from a grower asking, what is the prognosis to get more in from overseas, for example, a travel bubble? So I'll ask Paul to answer that one.
I get all the good questions. So in short, it's possible, but it's extremely difficult and probably unlikely in this current, where we're sitting currently at the moment. If we were to bring people in from overseas, we'd need to be able to guarantee them work for longer than just the mango season. And the reason for that is they may not be able to go back home. So whilst we could bring them here, quarantine them here, we'd have to consider how we would be able to get them back into their country. So it's not just employing them for the mango season, it's what do we do with them longer term. So I'm not saying it's impossible. What I'm saying is it's unlikely at the moment, although we are working with Department of Home Affairs and DFAT, and I did have a teleconference last Thursday where we discussed this exact proposal, and they were going away to think about how that would be possible to do. And in short, at point of entry, they would need to go through 14 days quarantine. They would need to go to an approved seasonal worker property, so someone that's been through the process. They would need to consider if a worker turned out to be unsuitable, what would they do with that worker? So they can't send them back home. So how would they deal with that component. So there are a lot of questions still to be answered. And I think in the coming weeks, we'll get some clarity to whether that's going to be possible. But like everything we've been doing over the last 3 months, it's plan for the worst, hope for the best. So we need to have all of those tools in the toolbox if it becomes too difficult or not possible to do. So hopefully that answers your question. Happy to take that offline and have a further discussion. I think, yeah, please give me a call if you want to go into it in more detail.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, we'll move on to Fair Farms. Fair Farms initiative is a pathway to third-party audit and certification. It demonstrates the business's commitment to fair and responsible employment practices. So it shows their clients, so Woolworths, Coles and Aldi, that they are ethically treating their employees. And Fair Farms offers a pathway, so where you may not be compliant in all areas straight away, they offer training and support to get you accredited over time. So check out their website, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. The National Farmers Federation have also provided assistance with a guide in relation to COVID-19, again on their website, National Farmers Federation. They have also got a one-page document which informs about a recent full federal court decision where casuals that were employed on a long-term basis took the company they were working for to court, and the court deemed that they can retroactively claim leave and other entitlements despite having received a casual loading. So that's something to be aware of if you do have casual employees employed on an ongoing basis. Again, we can give you the National Farmers Federation link to find that information. Now, Carol, you were going to inform us about the award.
Yeah, so as everyone knows, as of last April, the award changed significantly, with overtime rates applying for every hour worked in excess of 12 hours per engagement, or 12 hours in a single day, or 304 hours after 304 hours in an 8-week period. So we work closely with our growers at the moment that we do have seasonal workers with, and we supply them a little table every single week of where we're up to, what week we're up to, how many hours our people have done, so that it monitors the 304 hours so that they don't get to having to, you know, pay overtime. There are night shift penalty rates as well, which apply after 8:30 through till just before 5 o'clock. So anyone doing night shifts, sometimes we've had mango picking at night. Some of our growers in Katherine have done that. Everyone has to be aware there is a 15% penalty that will apply for night work. We are not going to be doing any toil arrangements this season. So just remembering growers, if you are looking for workers, you may need to look for more workers even at this difficult time, because they in fact need only to be doing 304 over 8 weeks, which is fairly well equates to your 38 hours a week.
Thanks, Carol. We've got a question. Do 12 hours include breaks?
I would have to double check, but I would say so. So the breaks, the morning and afternoon tea breaks are paid breaks. Your lunch break isn't a paid break, but it's generally the time they start to the time they finish, which equates to your 12 hours. but I can check, and for that person, I can get back to them.
Thank you, Carol.
So that will be on our Facebook feed and on our YouTube channel. We'll put the answer when we post this video back up for people to share around.
Okay. Every year, the minimum wage is reviewed. Usually a pay guide for the Hort Award is provided late in June. Now, this year we expect the same. So again, be ready for a slight increase and look out on the Fair Work website for that pay guide.
And also keep an eye on our Facebook page or our e-news, because we'll certainly publish it in that as well. I'm sure, Carol, you'd be advising all of your guys as well when that happens.
Yes. Yeah, we generally send out every July, well, as soon as we know, sometimes it's late June or the first week in July, we let our growers know this is the new award rates. So we'll continue to do that.
Thank you. Any questions on the annual wage review? No. Now, we have an event coming up on Thursday, the 25th of June at 8 AM. It is a teleconference. It would go for 1 hour. The National Agriculture Labour Advisory Committee, established by the federal government Department of Agriculture, Water and the Environment, was established to deliver a national agriculture workforce strategy. So they have lots of questions for the growers, and they have provided us with a list so you can do some pre-reading before the teleconference and have your suggestions ready. This document that they are working on will go well into the future. So it's quite important that as Territorians, we have our say on the industry we're working in and the issues that we're facing and consider the future. So RSVP to me and check out the discussion paper on the website. Any questions? Okay. So as Paul mentioned at the start, we need to use the tools and gather more tools for the toolbox. So the first tool we have is the Territory Jobs Hub. Register online, it's free to use and it's quite quick and easy. And there's also the Harvest Labour Trail that Carol is looking after as the provider here in the Northern Territory. There's also the job search website, so you can register your jobs on the National Job Search website, which is linked to that Harvest Trail. Register with the tax office for any changes to tax exemptions, to keep up to date with legislation, and the Fair Work to keep on top of that annual review and any changes to the Hort Award. Biosecurity has never been forefront of the minds of the general public as much as it is now. We have signs available as the one behind and on the screen. At the NT Farmers office in Pulalinga, you can phone to make an appointment to collect, or we can organise to deliver that for you. That will stop people entering your farm and potentially spreading disease. So again, another risk mitigation tool. Any questions? No. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Thanks, Isla. Please reach out. We've got resources available to help you. Isla in the office, Carol, we have a lot of knowledge and a lot of information. the one thing I would urge people to do, or the two things, is get your COVID management plan in and get it approved. That's critical. The second component is plan again for every thing that might come up in front of us over the next 3 or 4 months. We don't want to get to the start of the season and people start saying, well, I don't have enough staff, I haven't got this, I haven't got that. We really need to be organised this year like we've never been organised before. So as an organisation, NT Farmers will keep advocating as hard as we can, both at a Northern Territory government level and at a federal level, to make sure that we've got all of the things we need that will allow you to get your staff. And I really must acknowledge government at the moment with the way they are engaging in the process. They are aware, as well as anyone else, that we are going to struggle for staff. So they're looking for ideas. So if you've got an amazing idea that we haven't thought of, please let us know of how we can attract staff here to the Territory to make sure we can pick all of the fruit. Thanks again, Isla and Carol. Next week, it's all things modern cotton. So next week, our webinar series, we're moving on to cotton, which is a really large emerging industry here in the Territory. And we've done a lot of work over the last 3 years to bring this to fruition. So we're going to have a few guests at a very high level to talk about where the cotton industry is at and where we need to get to. So please register. And lastly, please look after yourself. Please reach out to a neighbour this week and say good day. We've all got to get through this together. Have a great week. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.